It's about time you showed up, listener. You're the only one who can hear this new episode of The Toad is Always Slippier, a show where four friends have chill discussions about Star Fox to distract themselves from the inevitable crashing of ships and their own rapidly waning ability to have the brains to rule Lilat. I'm General Cyberlink.
Game Buddy reporting in. Andross won't have his way with me. Unless...
Gee, it's Valero on the podcast. How swell.
Data analysis complete. Here comes Rock the Jake.
We're all in a mood today, folks, because we're so excited that our long-running Star Fox podcast gets to cover Star Fox 64.
Yes.
Finally.
More than 3 years, and you think we would have gotten to it by now.
You'd think. I'm super excited to, get to this one, because this game rules.
Yes.
I admittedly did not play the SNES game when it first came out. I was aware of it, was never, super, deep into it, because nobody I knew had it. But, for me, this game is what made Star Fox Star Fox.
Fully agree.
Yeah, it's interesting because I did actually play, Star Wing on the SNES when it came out.
Yeah.
There's a whole thing, lads. For those who don't know, the Star Fox name was copyrighted in our country for some comic or something, so they had to finagle their way around it, and that would carry on until 64.
I think it was specifically a German communications company called Star Vox.
Oh,
that was the
right.
problem.
That was the problem? Well, whatever it was, we had an issue, so we had to call it Star Wing. But I did play it on the SNES, and it was pretty good. I like me some rail shooters. Actually, you know what? We got to give the original game credit. It looked incredible for the SNES. It had that fancy chip in it, right?
Oh, yeah.
What did they call
Super
it?
FX.
That's the one, yep. Look, the 3D on the SNES, sorry, I'm driving the Americans insane right now. The Super Nintendo, or the Super,
I don't care.
Yeah, the rest of them, the angry people in the comments. But yeah, it was really unique, and I really liked it, but I never owned it myself. I just played it a few times, and
Same here.
I think 64, though, is when I realized, oh, wait a minute, I actually love this now.
Yes. Yeah, Star Fox 64 is ever since I played it as a kid, it's one of those games that I regularly go back to just throughout the years, just because it's so fun, it's so easy and quick to get into, and you can play as much as you want and then hop out. And it's I feel like it's the perfect game for if you want to, push some time into it, you can. If you want to just play it for 10, 20, 30 minutes, you can do that too. And I love Star Fox 64. I'm so glad we're talking about it.
I mean, that's kind of the joy of Star Fox 64 is that it's functionally an arcade game if you really get down to it, where it is just run-based score attack, doing, straight shot level 1 to level 7 with a couple of, variances in between. But it's just really satisfying to just get in, get out. I know people who would beat the entire game just at the, store kiosks or whatever where they have the demo station set up.
Dang.
I know we are going to talk about the gameplay a lot, which is fantastic. Probably hard to argue anybody's been able to follow up on it. I remember the presentation of the whole game is what sucked me in as a little kid, because it just makes you feel like you're in. I mean, it's like a combo of Star Wars, original Gundam. We were talking right before we hit record, even a little bit of old serials like Thunderbirds. And I just love how the game goes all in on it, on using the gameplay and the environment and these characters chatting at each other just for a few seconds before each level to build up this entire universe the game takes place in.
Yeah.
I love it.
It kind of did the Half-Life 2 thing before Half-Life 2.
Yeah, with this environmental storytelling and whatnot. And I mean, all it really needs is that scroll at the beginning to launch you into this. I mean, it is a space soap opera. It's fantastic.
While the original game had plenty of dialogue in it, lots of it was just repeated stuff because the characters would just say the same things. It would just pop up every now and then. And that was great and all. But we were playing in this is the this was an N64 cartridge game that had like full voice acting in it. And yeah, of course it was, condensed, distorted, which made sense actually because they were talking through a radio, so we didn't really mind about
This is what I'm saying.
Yeah.
But so much dialogue in there, so much, the world felt alive, and oh man, and do you know what though? It actually began for me before I even played it, because when you're getting the game, it comes in I don't know if it was the same for you. When I got Lilac Wars, as it's called over here, again, copyright nonsense, whatever. I knew it was Star Fox. It came in a big box. Because it came with the Rumble Pack. So, you're getting this... So, the whole presentation is just this big thing. And the game itself is a big thing. And you put it in and it's big. And it's bombastic. And it's... Ooh, sorry. Well, we can't get into it too much, but it's really good.
No, I'm right there with you.
Another thing that, had... it might still be up on my shelf. Jeez. I think I'm going to have to go get it. The original Nintendo Player's Guide for Star Fox 64. Hold on, let me go get it real quick.
Oh, I didn't have a player's guide. I just had to work out what I was doing as it happened. But that was kind of satisfying in its own way, just being like, oh, wait, if I do this, then, a whole new area I can get to. Oh, man.
Yeah. Actually, I had a moment like that recently on playthrough getting ready for this episode where you're in, I think it's Sector X with the spy bot, but I had a moment like that recently where I forgot that if you take the left path on that level, you can go through those warp gates, and I forgot that that level even had warp gates. So I was just like, oh yeah, I forgot it's not just Asteroid Belt. So that was fun.
I think that's something that carried over from original Star Fox, where you could go to a secret level by going through special gates. Because the original Star Fox was a lot more linear aside from that. Like, you just had, 3 courses you could choose, basically the easy, medium, and hard ones, which didn't really have much variation, but sometimes you could, sneak around and find something that would take you to a hidden level. But no, they did full-on embrace it in Star Fox 64, where it's you pretty much decide your route yourself depending on how well you play or whether you've worked out what you need to do here.
And I really like that. I feel like having those secret objectives that let you alter your route adds so much to the game's replayability and just really feeling like your playthrough is your own. And granted, it also means it's incredibly frustrating when you slip up and don't go under one archway or miss one, search beacon. And it's God damn it. But I just love that it's there.
And you can try again if you've messed up. You have to sacrifice a life, but you get a chance to go back on the course you want.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, looking at this fold-out poster of the Lilac Galaxy in this guide, there are, it looks like about 25 different combinations you can do. And I'm sure at this point I've done all of them multiple times.
It's kind of like what happens with Shadow the Hedgehog, is the game, except for they actually bother to make these things link up and make sense for the most part.
Yeah. Yes. I do like that. I mean, I like that one of the routes I replayed, I like that you can basically do the entire easy route and still manage to, either via a warp or otherwise, manage to get the true ending. I just love that it's that flexible.
Yeah.
I remember, oh man, I was over at a friend's house, or I think it was a friend of my parents, and they had a younger kid who I was playing N64 with. I remember we played he had Rampage on the N64, which I remember thinking, oh, this is fun, and also a little naughty because you kill and eat people and there's women in bikinis running around. But he had Star Fox 64 and had never managed to get farther than 3 or 4 levels in. And I remember staying there that was the only thing we did that night. And I remember, because I don't think I'd beaten it much either, but we got to an ending, except it was the robot Andross ending. But we were so it was like we had just conquered, the greatest thing we'd ever thought of as little kids. And hearing that credits music, etc.
It is worth talking about the music, actually, now you bring that up. Because one of the things about Star Fox Original on the Super Nintendo is that had a whole separate soundtrack. Everything was different to the Star Fox 64, which which kind of set the standard for what the Star Fox music was going to sound like going forward. I do really love the original soundtrack of Star Fox SNES, because there's some really atmospheric music in there, but it's all very sci-fi. There's a little, like, some of it does sound a bit like, you know, your typical space epic stuff. It's when it comes to 64 though, like Koji Kondo takes the reins and he just does like a Star Wars out of it, and that's not a bad thing. It sounds great. Like some really iconic tracks that we get as a result of them like doing a completely separate soundtrack.
I mean,
it's very much trying to go for like that sort of cinematic score kind of feel, and I think that it really works. Even if, you know, as a result, it's sometimes I have a thing with like more cinematic, music in games where it's like it doesn't, without like a clear hook to it, it's hard for me to distinguish between tracks.
Mm-hmm. I really enjoy the soundtrack because of the instrumentation choices that lend credence to the cinematic feel to it, like the marching snare drums that give that military feel, and then like the boss battle soundtracks, or the boss battle music for different levels, where it just gets this really big, bombastic, just like huge fanfare, rapid tempo and everything. And I feel like the music does so much to match the energy of each level and to really help drive the player forward. Because you, like I said, you have the energy of the boss battles, but you also have like the music on Aquas when you're just, you're in the Blue Marine going through the water, and then you've got music on like Soul that's like kind of got this desperate feeling because, hey, you're constantly taking damage. It's Koji Kondo, and I was reading it last night. There was Koji Kondo, and then there's another guy who also worked on the music. I'll try to bring that up real quick.
Yeah, Hajime Wakai.
That's it. Yep, thank you. Yeah, they did a fantastic job on the score. But also, I do want to say real quick, I also really do enjoy the SNES soundtrack, especially just because, if nothing else, for the Corneria.
The Corneria
song.
one is a standout.
Yeah, no, Corneria's untouchable.
Certified banger.
The best comparison of how the styles differ are the two different Cornerian tracks. I do love all of the specific themes in 64. I think those are the strongest. Like I don't know what you would call it, the Star Fox March, which is like the intro, the first cutscene, all aircraft report, dun dun. Dun, 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 dun. And it just repeats, but it's such a good tone setter. But all the themes, and I think the two biggest examples of, and I think Koji Kondo did both, of just like how complex you could get even on the N64 is when you look at the remixes in like Smash Brothers, and I mean fan remixes too, but of Gyarados Desert from Zelda 64 Ocarina of Time, and the Star Wolf theme, where a lot of modern versions incorporate like horns and those drums and Spanish guitar, and it's like, oh, that is just what I hear even on the N64 sound font when those songs come in. Man, it's so good.
It's real good.
I even love the like little themes, like when you start Katina, the little bit of like Bill and Fox's hero theme, the Fox. Bill, is that you? It's so good. This heroic theme that slowly devolves into like more menacing as this alien mothership comes in. It's just fantastic.
For sure.
And speaking of music, one more thing. Like I like to bring like cool covers and stuff, that I've heard from music to this show. And like I think my favorite cover of anything from Star Fox 64 has got to be from Richadi B. It's his Boss B metal cover, which is the boss music I was just talking about a little bit ago. That it slams. It's so good.
I know that one.
I mean, if we're talking amazing Star Fox covers, T. Lopes has a incredible cover of the SNES Corneria theme that is worth listening to.
Yeah.
God, I'm trying to think of... God, I don't even know if it's still on the internet anymore. It might be in my iTunes library still. There was a Japanese guitarist who went by War Inside, all one word, who did... Oh, this might be it. From, God, like 15 years ago, that is just the coolest like metal Star Wolf cover.
Nice.
from the original Star Fox, the learning control theme. There's a guy named Rukunetsu who made a really fun, just kind of chill electronic version of that song. And I put it on my workout playlist because amongst all the metal and stuff I have on there, that's also a good one that's got a nice driving beat that keeps me going.
Man, Star Fox music is good.
Yes.
It really is, man. No matter which one you want. And, thankfully, the original soundtrack from the SNES version, see, I'm varying it up now, isn't lost because, hey, they've still got the rights to it. They just chose to change it up for 64. So when you're playing, like, various Smash Brothers games, you're going to get that Corneria track, most likely. So it's great.
I mean, we're at a point where, you play Starlink with the Star Fox guest characters and you're getting tracks from both games.
That's
God,
great, man.
I still need to. I have that. I got it at GameStop for like $10.
Oh, yeah.
And I've still never played it. I think I mostly got it because it came with the cool R-Wing toy.
Of course you did. Why wouldn't
Of
you?
course I did.
I've got that on my shelf right now. And let me just go ahead and say, Starlink is the best modern Star Fox game.
Yeah.
The low bar.
Lots of people saying that, especially after Zero came out. But we're not talking about that today.
By the way, have we told everyone what Star Fox actually is? I'm not sure if we've really gotten into it.
Oh, yeah. We've kind of been yapping about it, haven't we?
It's a Nintendo property now most famous for its fan pornography.
Yeah, that's pretty much it. It's a shooter, but it's a shooter that I like. No, just kidding. I actually do like lots of rail shooters. I was a Space Harrier kid, well, 2 specifically, because that was on the Mega Drive. But it's a good one because you like really. It shouldn't be that interesting because you're just playing with little ships and doing shooties, and that's a lot of games. But because it's got anthropomorphic animal characters with funny voices and attitudes, I was hooked by it when I was younger. Because of course, that's the kind of stuff I grew up with.
That is the thing that really sets it apart from a lot of other games in that genre is how much character there is to it.
Yeah.
And I'm not just saying that because there's a lot of characters.
But there are.
Yeah.
It's good.
I mean, I think the game still would have been a hit because it plays well. I mean, but even if the characters were human, but I mean, there is like just the cool, like anthro animal factor there. Like, this was after, or I guess it was, because the original one was what, 92, 93?
Let me double check.
SNES version. I mean, I think it was in a post Sonic the Hedgehog world.
It was definitely post Sonic. It was mid 93.
Yeah, and I mean, animal mascots were all the rage, and I mean, I just don't think there's any beating around the bush that by the time you got to Adventures, it's like, oh no, this is the furry game. Like that is what these characters. They are compelling. They are cool animal characters.
And they're sexy.
Yes.
Some of them, at least.
Goes without saying.
Even Slippy.
It depends.
Someone's
Just
attracted
saying.
to Slippy.
It's out there.
Yeah, her name's Amanda. She's in Star Fox Command.
There you go.
Oh, yeah.
They had a bunch of tadpoles together. Sorry, spoilers. Actually, it depends on which route you take.
Exactly.
That's the thing. I was saying, like, on our last April 1st episode, that Diddy Kong Racing was kind of like a little cartoon, like a Saturday morning cartoon you could play.
Mm-hmm.
Star Fox feels like an animated film, but also has like furry characters in it. Like that's why I liked it. It was bigger and grander than your average cartoon, even bigger than like say the animated animal character things of the time because there was such a scale to it. But all the characters were so lively and they had funny accents and it's the kind of stuff I loved as a kid because, of course, the pig character sounds all like, he sounds like this because he's a big, horrible pig guy, It's, man, there's so much going for Star Fox and,
you say that, but then also there is a yo-ho-ho talking pirate that is just a big fluffy sheep man. So
yes.
They're not all pigeonholed.
Yeah,
that's true. But all the enemies are monkeys or apes. So, but it makes sense because there's a big ape man is the villain.
Mm-hmm.
No, it's fine. You've got to have like one evil race. You've got to have, as Chris McFeely put it, you've got to have the bastard animals. Or in this case, it's apes. Okay. Not your typical bastard animal.
I do think there is some like philosophy 101 going on where like the animals closest to man are the villains of the Star Fox universe.
There also might be a little bit of Planet of the Apes in there as well.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
Those damn dirty apes.
The animals capable of comprehending original sin are the scourge of the universe.
Also opposable thumbs.
Yes.
Well, how else do you think they're going to work their blasters?
With their robot legs.
Oh, that's the whole thing. That is the whole thing.
Everybody forgets about the robot legs.
Yeah.
Where did that even come from? Was that just like a theory, or was that something mentioned in?
No, that was in the manual, I believe.
Okay, that the Star Fox characters amputated their legs so they could use the R-wings better.
Because otherwise the G-force would like screw up their blood flow to their lower extremities.
Yes, it's based in some real world logic. Because like I remember, gosh, I'm sure it was like the Miracle of Flight movie I saw at the Naval History Museum like 4 times growing up that talks about like if you're going to be a supersonic jet fighter pilot, you have to go through G-force training. And part of that is being able to force the blood back into your brain so you don't immediately pass out, because it will go shooting to your legs and give you all kinds of problems. And yeah, apparently the solution in Star Fox World is you just amputate your legs.
I don't mind the idea of a character having robot legs. It's just wild to me that they would do it intentionally. Like, it's not the best representation for those missing legs and having replacements, but whatever. It's not something I think they've stuck to anyway.
No, I think a lot of it came from, you said the manual, and then I some of the original artwork, like I'm looking at the claymation styled artwork that I think came from the first game, and it sure does look a little bit like that, but now I think they've moved away from that, because that is a little. I mean, if the universe,
they are definitely still leaning into it. Like I'm looking at Fox's artwork from Smash Brothers, and those are some robot legs right there.
Well, they haven't talked about it officially in a while. I think if the Star Fox universe was a little more like pre-apocalyptic cyberpunk, that it would make more sense. But I mean, the world of Star Fox is more like space opera, like it's more Star Wars than Star Trek, where you've got like, except for the Aproids, which are literally the Borg. Anyway, I just think it doesn't really fit with the tone they've tried to strike in a lot of Star Fox games. I think it's just a weird little factoid nowadays.
Pretty much.
I think it started with Fox realizing that they needed to have robotic legs to deal with the G-forces, and then convincing Falco to do it for efficiency, and then Falco convinced others to be like, you want to do 500-pound squats with no repercussions on your legs?
If you slip them a 20, they'll make you taller.
You know what really happened is he convinced Falco to do it, and afterwards he's like, nah, we're not going to do it now. So that's why Falco's so pissed at him all the time, because he's the only one with robot legs.
You motherfucker.
I had the most beautiful talons.
Girls be falling all over themselves for my Italians.
my Italians.
Italians? Well, I mean, some people believe,
Hands off his bread.
Yeah, I'm of the belief that the thicker the Falco, the accent, the better.
I thought I was just going to stop at the thicker the Falco.
Yes, that one guy. Absolutely. Y'all know about the guy that's like famous for commissioning macro Star Fox artwork, right?
No, and I'm not sure if I want to.
Okay. It's just the person is very much likes it when Fox and Falco are like 80 stories tall and tripping over buildings, and that's all I'll say.
Good for them.
The fact that I'm aware of this knowledge already is not lost on me.
I mean, it's hard not to be, because it's gone on for decades. I mean, maybe tens of thousands of pieces of artwork. It's almost impossible. Even if that's not your thing, it's hard not to stumble across it. And you're just like, oh, okay, sure.
Checks out.
I hope it's in his will that he'll donate all that commissioned art to like the Louvre or something to be preserved for all time.
Next time somebody posts the image of like of Vector pouring Crystal Pepsi on the chow, and they're like, why is it always Sonic? I'm just going to point out, like, hey, Star Fox got it too, okay?
Yes. It's the two sides of the same coin.
Get that all added to the new Fox wing in the Louvre. Add that to the DS Tour software.
Yeah. It's the Mona Lisa. Here's Fox and Falco wrestling in a giant city.
That does seem like a good point to transition to talking about the characters, because like we said, it is the biggest reason why I think Star Fox has stuck with people compared to other rail shooters of that kind.
Mm.
Well, before we get to the characters, did we talk about Star Fox 2 at all?
In passing, Star Fox 2 is kind of an important element of the Star Fox 64 story, because it was going to be a thing before it wasn't.
Yeah.
Basically, the story, as I understand it, is that Star Fox 2 was getting made for Super Nintendo. It was going to come out in like 96, but Miyamoto kind of realized, okay, this is actually going to be coming out super late. By this point, Saturn and PlayStation are both already in the market. Their 3D stuff pretty significantly outclasses us. And also it's going to be expensive to implement the Super FX2 chip into all of these cartridges. Let's put this one back on the shelf. But at the same time, there was a team that was basically doing experiments trying to figure out, okay, what do we want to do with Star Fox on N64? At one point, like, they were running from a, dev station, didn't even have N64 controllers to work with because the Mario 64 team was hogging them. So they basically worked with a Super NES controller plugged into this PC workstation and started by just porting the SNES game. But they basically were experimenting with different stuff for about 6 months before finally settling on something in roughly mid-1995. And from there, they kind of built off of what they'd seen of Star Fox 2. And I believe Takuya Imamura, the character designer, has said that the final game is basically 30% Star Fox 1, 60% Star Fox 2, and then 10% just other stuff they came up with. But you look back at it, there's definitely stuff that they took from Star Fox 2, like the all-range mode, Star Wolf, just these big things that we associate with Star Fox 64 were from this scrapped but not scrapped anymore game.
Which is a really unique game, by the way. Give it a try when you can. I need to replay it myself because it's really, they completely changed the formula of how you play Star Fox. It's still Star Fox, but what do they call that style of game? Like the real-time RPG,
real-time strategy.
It's kind of an RTS a little bit.
Yeah, that's the fella. And yeah, it's pretty cool. But because of that being cancelled, we got this game, so 64. So maybe it's not all that bad in the end.
And if you want to play Star Fox 2, you can play it on the Nintendo Switch online, or you can get that Super Nintendo thing that they put out a few years ago.
Yeah, Super Nintendo thing, otherwise known as the SNES Mini. I do actually have one of those. But yeah, I'm glad they brought it out, though. That's cool that anyone can play it now.
I want them to bring out more basically finished games that they have sitting in the vaults. I would give my firstborn that I don't actually have for, that Puyo Puyo 64 or the Panel de Pon 64 that they canceled and then ported to GameCube.
Interesting. Well, cancelled games are a big part of Star Fox's history, apparently. So,
ain't that the truth? Speaking of Star Fox's history, there's a lot of it within the context of the game itself too.
There is?
I'm talking about the characters.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I was talking about
definitely, like I said at the beginning, the intro to the game and the opening scroll before you start a proper run, dump you into this universe, I think perfectly. I'd even argue that the animations of all of the characters running forward almost clue you into their characters before they even speak.
Yeah.
Especially Slippies.
You've got Fox is the fearless leader who is, at the forefront. Falco is a little behind Fox, but you notice that his strides are a little slower because he's taller. And you're like, oh, okay, this is the cool guy. He's not the leader, but he's like, yeah, let the boss stay up front. But, I could.
He's the Raphael of this game.
Precisely. You've got Peppy. Peppy is the older fellow, the more experienced. He's still up there. And Slippy, you can tell, is like, well, maybe he's not fully as heavily trained as these other guys, but he is keeping up with the rest. He's doing his best.
Yes.
And oh man, I think I won't. I will try very hard not to. I do think I could probably quote every line from this game, start to finish. Like we could do a impromptu radio play of a route of this game with just us.
Probably could. Yeah.
Yeah.
Message from General Pepper, priority 1.
We need your help, Star Fox.
There's 2 of us.
Andross has declared war.
He's invaded the. Okay, we got to stop.
Like I said, me and Luke, we were talking right before we started recording about the tone of this whole game, and I'm not super familiar with the Japanese cast and recordings until now. Other than every time I look, I'm like, well, that sounds just like the English and vice versa. Like, I can't even take people seriously when they're like, oh, the Japanese version's so much better. I'm like, shut up. Like, come on. They're
It's
obviously
good, though. It's got Daisuke
Yes.
Dori, like, playing General Pepper and Andross, and when you hear that laugh, I feel like they carried over the laugh into the English version. It's like, that's like full on. I've heard that in several anime,
I was gonna say that is a Heihachi laugh right there.
No shade. I'm just saying I think they're both striking a very intentional tone to where it is like, now that I am more familiar with original like 1970s Gundam, it feels a lot like that, which in turn feels like Luke, you pointed out, like old serials and like even like Thunderbirds. And I think because the English cast is a lot of actors who most of them had backgrounds in radio, it has that great tone that I think, quality aside, but like original, like He-Man and Thundercats and all that, like it has that same memorable tone of all of these guys with these very distinct voices just absolutely nailing the right amount of cheese and drama that makes this game so memorable.
It is hammy, but it's like you need it to be to really stand out in this game,
100%.
especially with like those distorted voices. Somewhat, you're hearing them like belting out lines, and it just like everything feels big because of the performance.
Yeah, and like I think a lot of the subtlety just gets lost as a result of the natural compression of the N64 storage. So it's like you do kind of need to go a little bit over the top in order to really deliver that. Like I remember, I played the N64 version of Mega Man Legends, and, some of those performances are, similarly hammy, but there's some subtle lines that just a lot of what they're saying literally gets lost in the compression because they are doing, more subtle deliveries or quieter deliveries that can't really be conveyed effectively when you're bit crushing it to hell just to make it fit on the cartridge.
I was just going to say, I think it's one thing where the compression is kind of iconic to where, like we've already said, it does sound like they're all talking over shortwave radios, which really is appropriate. But now that we have, because of various reasons, we have access to the original uncompressed recordings, I think when you listen to those, there is a lot of like, it still really holds up, because you would think like, oh, well, the cast was really small. They do have like people doing sometimes several dozen voices. So you would think, oh, a lot of them are going to sound the same, and some do, but also there is like an appreciation for, how good the acting is when you can hear it crystal clear. It still holds up really well.
Yeah. I before the episode, I was just playing some Star Fox Assault, just to like I played a bunch of Star Fox 64 and 64 3D before this episode, but I also wanted to play some of the other Star Fox games to just get a more wide variety of all the Star Fox to inform this episode. So I did play some Zero the other day, and then I played Assault today, and listened to the voice acting performances in that game. They're definitely more subdued, and I think it works for that game. I think it's competent and it's good, but it just doesn't have the same charm as 64. And it kind of reminds me of something that Stephanie Young said at a panel that I went to last year, where she said that that dubbing anime is kind of like doing Greek theater, where you have to be very big and over the top to get the point across. And I think that applies to the voice acting direction in Star Fox 64 as well, because I mean, they're not like constantly screaming or anything like that, but like the way they speak and the tone, specifically the tone of voice that they use, their inflections and everything really just sells, I would say, almost 100% of everything the characters are saying. Even Andrew going,
Andross's enemy is my enemy.
My enemy. You gotta put that stank on it.
The stank.
Yeah, as much as there are a lot of voices I like in Assault, like I'm a proponent, or if I like any version of Wolf, like Tory British or Texas accent. There are, some really big downgrades, and I think that does go to show that the voices in 64 aren't just silly, like they are very intentional, and like some of the voices in Assault are like, no, this is too silly. This is actually too over the top, even compared to this game recorded like in the early 90s.
Yeah. Or it's not over the top enough, because like Fox almost seems like he's whispering a lot throughout at least the beginning of the game.
Yeah, I think Fox, there are a couple of lines where like his very heroic, projected performance sometimes clashes, but I think he needs that. He needs that like heroic voice. Because then he also, it makes the cool lines stand out. Like, sorry to jet, but I'm in a hurry. Like Fox needs to be a little dorky and also a little cool.
He's got that sort of nasal voice as well, like, which I quite enjoy. That's got, cause it actually reminds me a little bit of his little like sound bites from the SNES version, maybe by an accident.
Yeah.
But there's something about that nasal voice for Fox, which, it is funny that they bring this guy back multiple times, because he's still got it now.
Yeah, that's kind of the funny thing, is that, they moved away from the 64 voices for a long time, and then they brought a bunch of them back for, something we're going to talk about later, and now they're just kind of the voices in everything, like even as far forward as Starlink.
I know, all the ones that are still alive, God rest their souls.
Yeah.
Yeah, I just really like, maybe I am over analyzing it, but I think Fox's performance in 64 is just lends a lot to his character, because I almost wonder if some of it is like projected, like that, heroic, well, I'm the leader now and I need to be in charge, because of like the tragedy of his dad. And I wonder if there is a little bit of like, I know he reformed the Star Fox team on his own, but there's got to be some of that going around, like, oh, well, that was his dad's team. This is the new Star Fox.
I absolutely agree.
I think some of it comes through to where also he's still I think I just stumbled across some, it might have been official, that all of the characters are in like their mid-20s, which is still really young. Yes. And I think those moments,
Peppy aside, obviously,
those moments come in the story as well. Like when Fox and Bill reunite, like Fox almost drops all pretense of being cool, and it's like, Bill, I can't believe it. Like his best friend from the academy, and he's just like letting his guard down.
I do believe he's always like trying to live up to his dad, even if it's not always obvious. There's always that, and Peppy's always there in the background saying like, "You're becoming more like your father," and like, "Your dad saved me like that once too." And he's got this constant reminder in his ear about his dad, so he has to be the new Star Fox. So
it's a lot of pressure.
That.
I really wonder sometimes, like, James is such a mysterious figure. Like, he comes back up in stories, but like we don't really know a ton of official from him. Like he was just a cool guy, and
He
like
wore sunglasses
Fox,
all the time.
Yeah, exactly. That's how you know he was a cool guy. Other than Fox obviously admires him as his son, and Peppy really does carry like your father was a good man, Fox, and trust me, which is I think that's cool.
On that note, I feel like we need to give special shout out in particular to Peppy's voice actor, the late great Rick May, who delivered
This is the voice of Peppy. Nobody else has it.
Not only delivered an incredible and very memeable, delivery as Peppy, but then did it again years later as TF2's Soldier.
Yes.
Oh, okay.
Man, it's it really is. There is no offense to anyone who has stepped into the boots, but yeah, nobody has come close to this N64 performance.
Yes.
It is such a layered and unique take on that voice. It's a really good accent. It is not just generic American Southern. It has texture to it, and it makes Peppy feel more like a real person. Like he is this... I mean, I say grizzled. I think in Star Fox 64, he's like barely 40, you know?
I mean, that's like 100 in anime years.
Yeah. I know. Oh gosh, it was so funny. Me and our friend Morgan were just complaining about people misusing the term old man yaoi for a bunch of anime characters in their early 30s. And I'm like, if there ain't no gray on the dome, don't be misusing terms.
And Peppy's all gray, so, you know.
Yeah.
Yes. Peppy is so, like you said, not only a memeable, memorable performance, but I mean, it's so good. There's so many good Peppy lines. One of my favorite is at the end, "The Fox, you're okay."
Yes.
Like that is like I imagine Peppy tries not to be like the scold dad of the team, but he can't help fall into it because he knows how dangerous this can be. And he's got a bunch of these kids who, I mean, he just doesn't want to see get killed.
Right. Yeah.
Like, yeah, he sort of like puts on the performance sometimes and he's like, maybe you're not such a screw up after all, Slip, you know, stuff like that.
Yeah.
The little snide remarks, but he cares and you feel it in the voice. Like, we're not seeing this guy outside of the ship very much, but you just hear it. Oh, Rick May, like, so good in the voice of
for sure.
of Peppy. Gosh.
I miss him a lot.
And like we can't, get past him without, of course, talking about the barrel roll line. Like I don't think anybody could have said that line better than him. He brought like 1,000% correctness to that line.
Yeah, it's the perfect cadence. It's and nobody even cares that it's not a real barrel roll. That's not what a barrel roll is.
Right.
But who gives a shit?
They call it, if it's an R, that's what it is when you're in an R wing.
Yes.
It's just a one-off. Like, it's just like, because he gives you loads of those commands, like telling you like to try out these new moves, like you don't know them. Well, you don't know them, but Fox probably should at this point.
Yeah.
And he's just like, do a barrel roll, and there's something about that just like glommed onto the consciousness of the internet.
Yes.
In their defense, do an aileron roll just doesn't have the same ring.
And it fits with again, a great way to incorporate it into gameplay is it fits with Peppy's like character of being the older guy who's looking out for these folks. So he is the one that said, watch out, Fox, or you got an enemy on your tail. Like he is,
Be careful, it's a trap.
he's constantly watching out using not only his lived experience, but just like because he's a little on edge. I think you can tell.
He gets really irritated sometimes as well, which I quite like. Is like, take care of the guy behind me, Fox, and then he's like, what's taking you so long?
Yeah.
Sorry, you were saying something, Jake.
Oh, it's okay. I was gonna say, especially with Peppy, like seeing everything he's seen and being the older member of the group, I think it makes sense that in Assault he kind of gives up his spot to Crystal so he can be kind of the man in the chair strategist on the Great Fox.
I really like that too.
Because he's got that tenure for it, I think that's a good choice.
I mean, probably my favorite part of Assault is when Peppy doesn't he ram the Great Fox into like an enemy mothership?
Yeah, he rams it into the shield around the asteroid planet in the second to last level. And then you're meant to think that he's dead.
Talk about space opera.
Yeah, hell yeah, dude. That is my favorite part of that game. And then there's the Falco. He's no, he's not even the Shadow the Hedgehog. What is he?
He's the Raphael.
We just said.
Yeah, he's the Raphael. He is the Yamcha in the Saiyan saga of Star Fox. Like, oh yeah, this cool guy who can't always back it up.
There's something about his performance in this game that I don't know if the other ones have managed to catch up to. I don't know what it is. It might be the accent. It might be just some of the subtle lines that I really like from him. But I love this Falco. Falco's so good because he's the kind of like he's your enemy, but he's also like your teammate.
He's your rival.
I love that sort of dynamic.
What would you call it? He really is an asshole with a heart of gold, because while he does complain a lot, and he can actually, you know, I say that 9 times out of 10 he can back up all his talking because he is a great pilot, but it's the subtle moments where the facade breaks away and you see like, oh, he really does care. Like he's also one that gets a "watch out, Fox" line, and it's so over the top, like you can't help but see through it the "gee, I'm saved by Fox, how swell." Like he hates to admit it, but he is admitting it. Very much so.
He's great, man. Like, there's something about that first, like, when you first hear him in the game, he sounds really kind of subdued, because I guess he's, like, focused. He's on the mission. He's like, Falco here. I'm fine. Then you get to Cornerio, and he's like, this is horrible. Like, he's like, he sounds emotionally, like, shaken by what's happened to the city.
I know. It is. I mean, when you really think about, like, it took me, especially as a kid, it took me a little while to realize, like, Corneria is, like, a huge capital city. Mm-hmm. So, like, him saying that is like, oh, like, all these smoking buildings, there are probably dead people in there. So it is like they swooped down and, like, 14 9/11s have happened.
There is something about Falco. He is very over the top as well, like the other characters. Like, whenever you're dealing with, like, a big enemy, multiple times you hear him say, "Jeez Louise, what is that?"
Yeah.
You know? But I love it. I love this little weirdly Brooklyn guy who's flying with you, who's antagonistic all the time, but you know he cares.
And then I also love, like, his tough guy bravado just instantly melts away when Cat's around. He's just like he's trying to be tough, but he's also just like, what are you doing here? Go away.
I mean, I'm sure many a fanfic has been written, but I really love that aspect of Falco's character, that he probably is hiding a lot of his true feelings. And I think you can read that into a lot, however you want. I mean, I'm just pointing out the fact that after Star Fox 64, he does leave the team and come back at the very end of Adventures wearing lots of leather accessories, and he seems much more happy and friendly to everyone. So good on you for figuring it out, Falco.
He took some time away, and now he's back.
Did some introspection. Yeah, Falco's great. It's such a good way. It is like putting he is your rival character, except you work for the same team. Like, I just think that's super cool.
And he's a bird. So I just like the fact that he's a bird.
He's a big blue bird.
Also, by the way, in the SNES version, he does have a different voice. It's that deep voice.
Oh, yeah.
And I feel like some people have we'll talk about A Fox in Space later, I'm sure, but I feel like that's inspired by that sort of deep voice that he's got.
It's a fucking Fazul! So, I mean, folks, come on. Knowing us, we're going to have to talk about that at the end.
Yeah.
Almost certainly.
And who could forget dear Slippy?
Dear Frog Boy. No, he's a toad.
I think Slippy gets a lot of shit. I like Slippy a lot more now.
Slippy was my favorite character as a kid.
Oh, cool.
I definitely remember on the early internet lots of people like, oh, he's got a high voice. Oh, he's so annoying. Oh, he's always asking for help. I'm like, yeah, but I mean, can you imagine if Slippy wasn't there, though? He adds so much texture to, like, you've got your 2 young, hotshot, experienced pilots. You've got Peppy as your grizzled old advisor. You need somebody like Slippy who kind of, I feel like, stumbled into it because he's the tech guy. He helped develop this, like, revolutionary G diffuser system, which allows the R-Wings to be so fucking cool. And I mean, you need him along to not only help fix them, but, like, he needs to be there. I'm glad Slippy is there, and he's pretty great.
I think Slippy is important because he, like, while Fox, Peppy, and Falco are, taking everything in stride and being super cool, I think Slippy kind of grounds it, and just like I think about when they're on Soul, like at first he's like, this baby can take temperatures up to 9,000 degrees, and then like a little bit later he's like, it's too hot.
Yeah. It's like he knows the facts, but that doesn't mean it doesn't suck.
Yeah.
It's great that they got this guy who's a bit more normal there, because the rest of them are being like, I'm going to take these guys out. Watch this, Fox. And Slippy's like, holy shit, what's going on? Oh, there's explosions everywhere.
And then the moment like when Slippy actually tries to emulate them and be super cool with the spy bot, oops, he gets swatted down into Titania.
Yeah.
I love whenever Slippy actually gets ahead of himself. He's like, you can't escape from me. Oh shit! It's the I'm a genius. Oh no!
Oh no!
Yeah. Is it the I can't remember. Is it in Meteos, or the meteor field, where Slippy is luring the big rock enemies that usually take a bomb or several charged hit. He's like, you want a piece of me? Come get it. And if you don't shoot them down, he's like, oh shit, wait. He tries.
Plus, you just want to keep Slippy around anyway, because if you don't, then you don't get to see the boss health bar, and after like however long, you're like, oh my god, why is this fight not over?
Exactly.
Am I doing damage even? Yeah, like that's why it's great having Slippy there.
Also incorporates it into gameplay that each character, you want to help each character because they all add something to the gameplay. Like Peppy's the one that straight up tells you where the weak points are. I think Falco. What is Falco? I mean, Falco, I think
Falco's thing is that like you kind of need him to get some of the alternate routes.
That's true. First stage, Corneria.
I think occasionally he will actually do damage on the boss. I can't remember. And yes, Slippy is the one who analyzes the enemy shield so you can see it.
I think Falco
no small parts.
I think Falco's also the one who most often drops supplemental materials that you need, like usually bombs, but I think sometimes he also drops like an R-wing wing if you need it.
Yeah, or he'll find it in the environment for you. Like that's another one in the meteor field where he'll just come out of nowhere, and I think he even says like, "Yeah, I guess you should be thankful because he gives you like a gold ring or something."
Yeah.
One of my favorite Falco bits is like during that one boss where you beat him and he's like, "Oh, I'm no match for you. I admit defeat." And if Falco's there, he's like, "Wait a minute, he's up to something." And then so to clue you in that this battle isn't over, and so he'll be like, "You're not as dumb as you look."
Yeah, doesn't he say, "Are you really gonna listen to this monkey?"
Yeah.
Really hitting the M on that, like, whoa,
oh, hang on.
Falco. I know they're the bad guys, but
I was thinking about saying that. I was like, I don't know if I should, but then Luke went for it.
It is how he says it.
Yes.
I love that guy though. Like you say, you're not as stupid as you look. Good stuff.
And also, I feel like if we're going to talk characters, we got to mention Starwolf.
Yes.
My God.
What a great idea, though. I know technically they were a part of Star Fox 2 originally, but like having a team of the same amount of members who are like each have like their assigned rival. It just works. It just works. You go onto a stage and there's 4 guys out to kill you. But mostly...
There's a reason why the rival battles are always the most interesting part of like any video game.
And they're mainly there so you have to rescue your friends all the time because they're getting chased by the other guys.
I do think, oh man, speaking of, we were just talking about your teammates do occasionally do damage to bosses. I did do a run preparing up for this where I was trying to keep just for my own insane completion, trying to get as many medals as I could, and I did miss out on like 50 hits because one of my guys actually shot down a Starwolf ship after I damaged them, and I was like, good for you guys. It does happen. Now, if only you would pick up those fucking hyper laser upgrades, you could actually help me. No, Starwolf is I mean, I can't even properly explain like how it felt as a kid getting that first intro where you're probably first doing the sorry, I'm looking at the map.
Is it Katina?
Ficina base. Yeah.
Oh, is it Ficina base? Yeah, Ficina base or Fortuna, but is it? Which one is it? Oh, I don't know.
It's supposed to be Ficina, but they called it Fortuna in the
they
original
sure do.
localization. And then they fixed it. They fixed it for the remake.
But yeah, Ficina, you're going in that mission and it's just like, you know, it's one of those all range mode ones where you're zooping around, you're like wondering what's going to happen. And all of a sudden they're like, there's something going on with the base. And they're like, well, what's going on with the base? There is a bomb planted at the base. Oh, that's what's going on with the base.
Can anyone take care of it?
Can't let you do that, Star Fox. Andross has ordered us to take you down.
Your daddy screamed real good when he died.
Happy old pal.
Andross's enemy is my enemy.
Oh, boy.
Stick to the pond, Froggy.
Yeah.
I'll do you fast, Peppy old pal.
Oh, hi. There's your old man, Yowie.
Hey, that's what I'm talking about.
Oh, man. Oh,
I think
Star Wolf, man.
I think I've shared the story before of like I was playing Star Fox 64 as a kid once, and I was doing the fight against Star Wolf, and I was doing like the flips to get away from Wolf, and he kept saying, "What the heck?" And one of my parents came by, and they're like, "I don't know if you should be playing that."
Yeah, I do remember that.
I love that delivery, though.
Likened it to the same as, you know, the one hell of a guy in DK64, and you're like, oh,
They can do that?
oh, I mean, I love that line too from Wolf. Like he's never thought of how to do a somersault, but also if you score a couple of hits on him, he'll go, "You're good, but I'm better." Like, very Liquid Snake in the.
That's it. Like giving him
the projection.
He's a villain during the 90s. Of course, he's British.
Yes,
but it's great.
He's British, and you have to imagine he's a little bit hard saying all these lines.
I can't lose.
Oh, it's so good.
And it's even more satisfying when, you know, you're doing the hard route and they come back at the very end, all like clearly bandaged up, but
I know all those Band-Aids.
Yeah.
It's so funny.
You know, we joke on Andrew, but I gotta say my favorite scream in the game is the one where his ship blows up and he dies. He just lets out like the most guttural scream. Just
Yeah.
That actor's really good at the screams, you know, also playing Fox. When he dies. Oh.
That's a good one too.
I like those.
They are all just bastard characters from that era, and I love it. They're not the ones you'd expect, though. I mean, a wolf, yeah, sure, wolves are, generally portrayed as treacherous, horrible creatures.
I think especially, I mean, I might be talking out of my ass, but especially compared to foxes in, like, Japanese mythology. Like, foxes are tricksy, but I feel like a wolf is like, oh, yeah. And I mean, I don't think wolves exist in Japan anymore.
The wolves do have their, like, cultural context in Japan, like lots of, Okami was all about, like, a god wolf. And there's this whole thing about, like, Okami is the name for a wolf. So there's god connections to them. I just sort of think of the West where we're like, oh, that nasty big bad wolf trying to trick a small child. Dressing up as a grandmother. I don't know if Wolf would do that. He might, actually. He's British.
I mean, he does. I mean, that is the funny thing about Wolf is now you basically do have like two different versions of the character, but they all like bullying Fox, in my opinion. I think modern Wolf is the more like, what's the matter? Scared?
Yeah.
But in 64, one of my favorite things is, you'll be seeing your dad soon. I'm just imagining Fox like, really? You know my dad?
Papa?
Oh, wait. Hey.
I believe Assault implies that they did know each other, actually.
I think so.
Yeah, James and Wolf. Yeah. And what was it? Andrew Oikenny, the
Nepo
Great
baby.
Leon. Yeah, Nepo Baby Andrew and the Great Leon.
They're all good. That's something about all of them. We've already talked about Pigma being like the little bastard animal who's just like, yeah, I know you fast, Peppy, old pal. Your daddy screamed real
I mean, if you had to, I mean, if you had to cast a celebrity, he's Joey Pants from The Matrix, like that exact same wormy little, like, yeah, we're all buddies, right? But we'll sell out your grandma for $20. Like you should have known. He would probably literally say, like, you should have known what you were getting into with me. Oh boy!
Like they tell, like, right from the beginning, if you're watching the whole like crawl where it tells you the backstory, you're like, well, I know to hate this guy because he betrayed Peppy and Fox's dad, and then he comes up and he's like, oh, my beautiful reward, and you're like, yeah, fuck this guy.
Yeah,
you die first.
But I like that, Wolf O'Donnell and Leon both have, like the fake British accents, but they completely stand out from each other because Leon like distinguishes himself in this game as the more like cool-headed, like I said, he's like a Bond villain. He's the cool, level-headed guy who also enjoys cutting people's fingers off. Like he's that kind of sicko. And Andrew is Andrew. He's a pathetic little he is everything people hate about Slippy except for real. An annoying hanger-on with no experience who you just wish would shut up.
Did not earn his way on the team whatsoever.
No,
just
absolutely legacy. Like, do you know who my uncle is?
It is no wonder that they literally kicked him out after the events of this game.
Yeah,
I know one of the only characters in canon to like die for real and never come back.
And nothing of value was lost,
except for the fact that we love him because he's
yes, exactly.
He's just this little pathetic guy. I think we're talking about that. They never got the voice right after this. Like, that's it. That's what he should sound like.
Yeah.
He sounds like this. Uncle Andross. Oh, no. You're, I'm not scared of you. Oh, no.
You're not welcome here.
Yeah, it's great, man.
I know. He thinks he goes so hard with those lines. He really doesn't.
But we have other characters, too, that, don't play as big of a role as everybody, but they're still fun.
There's a handful of others, Rob64 giving you location confirmed, sending supplies every so often.
Yeah.
Yep.
Which, again, I think that's another...
A good robot voice.
I think...
Really like them.
I think the 64 voice is also, like, peak Rob64. I feel like the voices afterward just don't hit it the same.
Well, that's the thing. He was Rob 64. He's only supposed to be good on the 64.
Yeah, there you go.
Right. I mean, it's the same reason you hear me bitching every time they mess up Omega's voice filter in Sonic. That is part of the character. You got to get that robot voice sounding right. I really like it. I always like General Pepper, especially in this game, just because I don't know. I just love a good like military dog character for some reason. For the pun,
true dog
and
of the
just,
military.
Yes, he's very interesting, and I just love that performance. That it's not really an accent. I don't even know what you would call that. It's a weird, just an interesting voice for him to have. I like it a lot. I do want to give, I don't remember a ton of Star Fox Zero. I remember liking that General Pepper as well, because he came across as very like, man, he should have retired like a decade ago, but can't because shit keeps happening in this tiny galaxy.
I do love like some of his performances, like at the end of the game where you get like you give him the invoice for how many enemies you've destroyed, and he just gets more and more upset the more that you've done, because the bill gets higher.
What?
Yeah, the what?
Yes. Either that or this is a steep bill, but it's worth it.
When I was playing Star Fox Assault earlier, I was listening to General Pepper, and again, the role in the voice acting for that game is not bad. It's competent, but like he sounds a little bit like President Nixon from Futurama. He's got kind of that. he's got a little bit of that to it.
I mean, he is a dog. He can go.
Yeah, he is.
I don't remember the assault. I just remember. Sorry, Rareware. I do not like his voice in Adventures.
General Pepper here.
General Pepper here.
It's like Southern, but not. It's too far in the other direction.
It's like They just told the voice actor, like, imagine military commander with half of a sandwich in his mouth.
Yeah, probably.
There is a certain gravitas to the 64 one, which I like. It's a little bit silly, but I like it.
Like he's trying to sound in control, but he's also definitely desperate.
I think it's interesting, the interesting dynamic that Star Fox is a mercenary team. Like, they have no official ties to the Cornerian military, except that they work for them. And obviously, tend to stay on the side of the good guys, which, I mean, comes across in the credits where he offers Star Fox, like, basically like, oh, would you like to be our Blue Angels? Like, oh, no, sir. We prefer to do things our own way, which I just think is kind of neat. I guess same with Star Wolf. Like, they are also mercenaries who are just, Andross was the higher bidder. And, I think that gets fleshed out in other games and other materials. I just always love a good bounty hunters up against each other story.
Yeah, for sure.
But then we got Bill Gray and Cat Monroe, which we've talked about Cat a little bit. Well, Bill and Cat before. We've talked about them a little bit, but they're very fun in this game. It's cool to have these characters who can follow you to other stages, which is super cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It really does add a lot of flavor too, just to have these other characters who are not like a main part of the story, but will show up and clearly have, history with the main cast. So it's like, just by virtue of existing, they serve to kind of further flesh out the characters in a lot of ways.
I think even without like supplemental text, like, you get that Bill is like the path that Fox could have gone on. Like, hey, if his dad was still alive, he might have stayed in like whatever military academy, and ended up like in Bill's squad or with his own squad alongside Bill.
Yeah.
I don't know. They're all dogs in his squad. So, like, I know technically speaking, Fox is canine, but would he fit the bill? Oh, wait.
Ha-cha-cha.
Bill is cool. He just, he doesn't get a lot to say, but it just comes across as like, oh, he's a cool guy. Like, he's got this huge squad.
Yeah. That's how he's cool at the time, dude.
He's got this huge squad. They're protecting this base on, is it Katina?
Yeah, it's Katina.
Katina. And like, it's a huge squad. Like, if you can somehow manage not to shoot down his entire squad, it is a lot of ships. So
Fox, that was one of ours. You're like, well, sorry, they look very similar.
Bill is obviously like a pretty high up there. And yeah, he's just a cool dude, and he will follow you to the sun to give you items.
Yeah.
He follows you to quite a few places, actually. Because, he'll follow you to the sun. He'll follow you to Sector X to help you with the warp gates.
Yeah, which, holy shit, you need it on those gates.
The one thing I do like is that if you meet Bill or Cat in your playthrough, they will show up in like the ending sequence where just flying alongside the Great Fox. And that's a great touch.
That is super cool. Yeah, Cat is also super cool and manages to immediately like establish her backstory with like a single line from Falco, and you're like, oh, okay.
The first girl shows up in this, and you're like, wow, she's really cool, actually. I love her little theme, the do-do-do-do-do-do-do-do that shows up.
It sounds like actual people making those noises. I love it. That MIDI instrument. Yeah, Cat is, I can't remember, is Cat established as a bounty hunter in her own right?
More or less. Like, the only, like, for sure thing we know is that, she and Falco were both part of the same gang before he joined Star Fox. And they kind of suggest that their falling out is what led him to leave.
Mm-hmm. I know. I love how it's such a, like, Falco is hostile, but Cat just, ignores it most of the time. It's so funny. You can just fill in the blanks on your own. Like, their falling out was like, was it Falco? Was it her? Was it, it's really great. Like, I think the tension between them is very cute and doesn't really have to be explained.
That's why I like that at the end of the stage after she vanishes again. He's just like, Cat, where'd you go?
Yeah.
Cat. Where'd you go? He's a little disappointed. Like, oh, wait, we could have. Oh, well.
Want to get some coffee or?
Yeah. Now I know she follows you to, because you meet her on Zonus.
Yes.
And then she'll follow you. I think she does follow you to Macbeth. I think she will shoot one of the switches you need alongside Falco. And in Sector Z, obviously, she will help you take down the big penis missiles that shoot at the Great Fox. Which, yeah, gosh, I know that's a lot of characters, but just how, speaking of Sector Z, like how varied the stages and missions. Like a lot of them are the on rails, like you said, very much arcade shooter, but you get the all range segments, which are fully 3D, and just the fact that Sector Z is so different in that, like, yes, it's all range mode. You are fighting enemies, not unlike Facina or Bolse or whatnot, the Starwolf ones, but instead, like, oh no, they are shooting at your mothership, these huge missiles that only come from one side of the screen. Like, man, the fact that they could mix it up so much with different gameplay using the same formulas, what a good game.
For sure. I'm curious if there are any specific planets or missions that really stand out to you guys. Because, like, I think, after having, replayed it again, I think Macbeth is still my favorite.
I was going to say Macbeth. Like,
Macbeth is up there.
Because you got to forget, it's not just the R-Wing. You got the Landmaster and the Blue Marine, and I really like the Landmaster. It's a little clunky, but a nice little tank, basically.
I think the the Landmaster definitely takes some getting used to, but I think it's just really satisfying, and I love on Macbeth chasing down the train while the simple country lawyer driving it complains, and then finally kind of getting one over on him if you go for the alternate route by hitting the switches and driving him off the cliff.
So
it's
cool.
the best part.
It's so satisfying.
Closer. You're very lucky.
No! Hit the brake!
The brake!
I can't stop it!
Oh man. See, that's what I'm talking about. That is such a legendary line delivery there. 50 hits off of blowing up the entire depot there, man.
I think,
and that train is just cool.
So obviously Macbeth is a big favorite for all of us. I think for me, Katina is also a big one, just because I love the Independence Day riff on it, and
it absolutely is too.
Speaking
they knew
of
exactly
which,
what they were doing. It was in the public consciousness.
The bill is literally named after a character from Independence Day. They know what they were doing.
Oh yeah,
yes. The ships look the same. The mothership, yes. And I mean, that movie wasn't even old when they were developing this, so it really was like, hey, cool movie.
You made this?
But what if
I made this?
Yeah. What if we put our furries in there?
And
instantly making it a lot better. That's just how it works. Put furries in something and it improves.
And that is a super good level. Again, mixing it up where you are especially fun if you're trying to get the medal for that stage, because then you really do have to juggle, like, taking out these other smaller enemy ships and protecting Bill's squad, while also, like, this huge mothership that's going to blow up the base. It's so fun.
And of course, it's worth pointing out Facina again because of the introduction of Fugitive Alien. Sorry, I mean Starwolf.
Yep, that's another one that's, I mean, it's such a good, compared to Venom 2 and like Bolse, it is such a good, like, hey, that could be the third level you do in the game. And I think it's a great easing into, like, forgive the half pun, but the dog fighting of the game.
Yeah.
Like, it's such a good introduction.
Do you think that's why they made the more dogs in Katina? I don't know.
I could see it.
But yeah, I mean, I think the whole Cornerian army is supposed to be like canines. I think
Pretty
even
much,
in other games, like, the little grunts are all dogs. I think it's part of, I don't know. I don't think it's ever that serious. Like, oh, Corneria is primarily a dog planet. It's just, it's funny. You've got General Pepper. He's the big hound dog in charge, and all the little grunts are the little puppies.
Tale as old as time. The armies of the dogs versus the apes and monkeys.
Yeah.
Yep.
I mean, it kind of reminds me of oh geez, have y'all ever read or watched Cat Shit 1?
Yes, I know what you're talking about.
kind of similar Star Fox vibes, where all of these various military specialists are literally, like, represented by different species. Like, oh, all the rabbits are snipers, all the grunts are dogs, etc., etc.
I also want to say that as far as other levels that I really enjoy, I also really enjoy Sector X and Sector Z because of Sector X because of it's almost kind of like a haunted graveyard kind of feel. Like it's got that creepiness to it, especially with the spy bot. And then Sector Z because of, like we said, just how different it is. Because like when you were talking about it earlier, I was trying to pinpoint it, and I think the fact is that for the majority of the missions in the game, you're on the offensive. You're taking it to the enemy, even if it's still kind of reactionary. But for Sector Z, you're on the defensive. You have to make sure your ship is like okay, and like you're having to deal with these enemies coming at you, and you're kind of stuck in this space for a little while. And it's just such a interesting feel for that one. Sector X and Z are so different, but in a way the same because of the atmosphere for both. I just really like them.
I always thought Sector X was super interesting because of the fact that, in that final boss battle with the, walking Star Trek the Motion Picture reference.
Basically.
Like it says, where is the creator? Like they were not being subtle about it.
Right.
But
yes.
The fact that Slippy can go down in that fight and you have to go rescue him on Titania afterwards, like that was something that I didn't think could happen.
Right.
That was.
Do you know what's funny about that? Is I remember I was playing that stage and Slippy was like, had been taken out in the previous one. And then he shows up again just before the boss battle. Which
I remember doing that before, thinking, I'll trick the game and be like, nope. Just be like, hey, good news, guys. I finished my repairs early. Oh, no! Because that's a whole mechanic on its own, is that if a teammate's health is depleted in a level, they will hightail it back to the Great Fox.
And you won't get a medal.
The next level. Yeah, you won't get a medal, and they'll spend the next level like having their ship repaired. It won't come back until the mission after that. It's just kind of fascinating. I like it.
There's just so many good stages, so many great moments, so many great bosses.
It's hard for me to pick a favorite because they're all really good. I will say, okay, I'm going to take a different one. The one I love to hate but feels so good when you do good at it is Area 6.
Yeah.
I love that it's a good payoff after Sector Z, because Sector Z is the one that like has, hey, the Great Fox has been here the whole time, but here it is like in the same space as your ships. Like, Rob's up there sending you items. Here it is vulnerable going through this, space junk, having missiles.
Yeah.
And if you rescue it and make it to Area 6, I love that. And this happens regardless, because you can come to Area 6 from Macbeth too, but it's one of the only levels where the Great Fox will literally back you up and start helping you take out these other huge battleships. And it's such a good, not only a super difficult level, and absolutely the hardest one to medal for certain, next to Venom 1. I can't remember if you have to get 2 medals for Venom or not.
I think it's only 1.
Thank God. Venom 1, I can say, is my least favorite level because woof, it's just super hard and man, there's a lot going on. But yeah, Area 6 feels the most like this is a Gundam-ass anime, and we are using our new type instincts all over the place, hitting these huge ships.
Yeah, I think the one I love to hate the most is Zonus, just because, like, if you're going for the alternate route on that, it is so easy to miss one of the searchlights.
Oh, yeah. If you haven't saved up bombs to bail you out of oh, no, I missed one, then, yes, you might as well restart. Love that boss, though.
Yeah, it's a good boss.
And then you can stock up on so many bombs during that boss fight, specifically for Area 6. Oh, man, so good.
That's kind of the thing. And I suppose it's worth mentioning Aquas, because that's a love it or hate it kind of stage.
Yeah.
It depends on how much you enjoy the Blue Marine and the... And to be fair, this is one of those levels that chugs quite a bit on the original console.
Yeah. I used to not like Aquas probably because it's also a little scary. Like Jake mentioned, with the music really contributes to that.
It's also hard to see.
It's hard to see. It's scary as a kid, and
you're on your own too. You're just Fox. Everyone else is, I think, up in the Great Fox.
Yep.
Either way, you don't have any help.
Yeah. They're just berating you or giving you advice. And I love that whether it's a Landmaster or a Blue Marine, Falco is just bitching the whole time. Like,
I'll take
personally, I prefer the
I'll take the sky any day.
Aquas is I love that Aquas is where Slippy just gets to brag the whole time because it's like I think the Blue Marine was like it's implied to be like his baby. Like, you know, they had the Landmaster and the R-Wings, of course, but I feel like the Blue Marine is new and he's like, oh yeah, can you believe it? Converted this to full underwater, etc.
It's got unlimited missiles, which is super cool.
Keep firing. We got plenty.
Does have they did put a cheap controller in there though, so be careful.
Really, really hope Slippy didn't cut corners on the pressure resistant coatings there. Right. It wouldn't even be time for a death scream. It would just be like, Fox, where'd you go? Oh no.
I was gonna say, can we also talk about the fact that like you can destroy all the enemies in that level, you know, with lasers or missiles, but the stupid fish that are native to there can just take the missiles over and over and just be like, nothing wrong.
Life finds a way.
It's hard to tell, like, in that level. And it's interesting in Zonus and Solar as well that your enemy seems to be, like, the natural inhabitants of that environment. Oh, yeah. And it's a little sad. Like, I think there is some hand-wavy, like, oh, well, they've been affected by, like, the influence and pollution of Andross's army. But still, like, I think we're just killing animals, you guys.
Pretty much. And the boss for Soul is, like, a bioweapon, they say, but you're like blowing off its body parts and it's quite horrifying.
A little bit.
Yeah. It is a little sad, like it's implied that, oh, these might have been creatures who were native here that like Andross just mind controlled or stuck a bunch of horrible upgrades to, and it's like a little bit of tragedy there. I think there is some like environmentalism baked into like the story of Star Fox.
That was in like the original Star Fox too. I was going on, I think it was Fortuna than the original, because it's just a completely different stage in the original SNES version, and General Pepper's like, yep, Andross has taken over all the animals here, kill them.
Oh no.
It's pretty sad. The big thing for me is whether a stage lives on in my memory or not. It depends on how well it used the Rumble Pack. I think we could talk about like this was the first N64 game to it pretty much introduced the Rumble Pack, which is just for the kids who don't know, it's just basic vibration in your controller, but it's not built in. You gotta like slam this big hulking bit of plastic in the back of your controller.
Oh, it was so heavy.
It is, but that's part of the experience, I think, is like grasping onto the weird, already weird and cumbersome N64 controller and having this battery powered thing at the back like vibrating like crazy. And I don't think people understand. This went ham with it. Like, especially if you're like, whenever you beat a boss in Star Fox 64, this thing, and there's a big explosion, it's rumbling your hands off. Like, and that was part of the experience for me. I think it made it a bit more immersive. It's like, you're like shaking in your hand as you destroy an enemy. I'm like, yeah, I did that.
I gotta say, I'm a little disappointed with how, you know, the HD Rumble in the Nintendo Switch controllers is super cool. Not anywhere near the strength I need it to be for 64. And, you know, I wonder if there wasn't something to it to where they were like, okay, Star Fox 64, first game with Rumble. Also, it's very hard. Can make your hands quite sore from smashing those buttons. Hey, let's give a little bit of vibration to help ease that tension. Now, I also have to say, and man, I'm really trying to avoid, y'all know how I stumble into entendres on this show. I had a third party N64 Rumble Pack that I think also came with a memory card.
Are you referring to the Tremor Pack Plus that I also had?
Yes, because it had a switch that was normal Rumble and more Rumble. Wow. And so when I tell you, when you crash the train on Macbeth, that thing might as well, like, shake you to your very soul. Oh, my goodness. I will never forget. Yes, that's it. The Tremor Pack Pack Plus. Holy crap. That I was afraid. Sometimes I put it on the floor and watch it dance. Like, hit him again,
that
he's
was some
still
Psycho
dancing.
Mantis shit right there.
I was going to say, like,
Absolutely.
the two major, like, for memorable use of vibration and controllers, Star Fox 64 for me and Metal Gear Solid on the PlayStation. Because of, yes, the famous bit where you put your controller on the floor and Psycho Mantis makes it move. And also the bit where, after you had suffered through the electroshock torture segment, and Snake is like, I'm feeling really bad. And he's like, oh, put the controller on your arm. And then it vibrates. And you're like, oh, that actually... It's like this moment of, like, I am Snake in this moment. The nanomachine's affecting my arm.
Man, you know what's the best part of that, the Psycho Mantis, is that Snake looks at the screen and tells you, it's okay, do it. You know, he doesn't say it out loud, but he gives you the nod, like, go
Isn't that
for
in
it,
Twin
kid.
Snakes?
That's Twin Snakes,
like
yeah.
the remake, yeah.
Is that in Twin? Yes,
They're
I think
more
that might be
cheeky in
only
that
in
one.
Twin Snakes. It's good stuff. I still enjoy Rumble in games because it is just like a little bit of immersion you're not even thinking about. I do wish it would hurt me more like the N64 did.
Hurt me more!
Snake!
God, sorry. There is a horrible, like... Someone could have some real fun with this if they beat the boss and like, right, I know where this is going.
Speaking of, things I was trying not to bring up.
No, I'm here to bring it up.
So was the Rumble.
I mean,
It happened in Banjo-Tooie as well. Whenever the Jiggy Wizard would open up a stage for you, it would just like a good, almost a solid minute.
No, Jiggy Wiggy's unlock method was aggressive with the Rumble.
Yes. So again, hey, like you said, if you planned out accordingly and were of us, like, hey, I know what I'm doing the next minute and a half.
Feel the boat running up my legs.
There you go.
I'm telling you though, I was never good enough to get most of those medals. Like some of them are just really demanding, and even the ones that weren't, I was just not skilled enough to get enough hits, which is why I would always use a Game Shark just to unlock it.
Oh man, this was a game that when I got a Game Shark as a kid, was the ultimate Game Shark game, just because it had, unlimited health, unlimited hits, so you could just breeze through the game and, see stages you could never get to as a kid. I have completed all the medals. I know I specifically started on the 3DS version, which I'm sure we'll talk about in a moment, to where I 100%ed, got all those medals, all the modes, and then I did it again when it came out on the virtual console for the Switch. And I admittedly did probably use save states on that one, but through this replaying it for this show, I did do several playthroughs where I did not use save states and still managed to get most of those medals. So it's just part of my mental illness, like always. Nobody told me I had to do it, didn't have to do it. You can stop after you unlock expert mode and you've got those goofy sunglasses on Fox
Well, no, there's another reward. If you get all medals in both normal and expert, if you just get one medal in Venom, that's how you unlock Landmaster for multiplayer mode. But if you get it for every stage in both modes, that's how you unlock on foot multiplayer.
Okay,
Cool.
I couldn't remember if that's how you did it or not. So yeah, I guess it is worth it, because I remember playing that a lot when I had the Game Shark with my little sister, and we would either both do on foot or one of us would be in an R-Wing, and it would just be this insane versus mode of this tiny, almost impossible to hit character compared to the R-Wing. Oh man,
That's kind of cool though, getting to actually play with them for real. Like, as much as the appeal of the game to me, and like as I would learn in future games, I do prefer it when you're just in like the R-Wing or one of the vehicles. There's something about being the little dudes where I'm like, oh, I want to see what they're like outside of their vehicles more often.
Something I did not learn until I was doing research is that mode is basically a repurposed leftover of an original third route for Venom, where Fox was going to get out of the R-Wing and confront Andross on foot.
Oh, cool.
Oh, that would have been
kinda
interesting.
Cool. I wouldn't say compared to games in the future, like just a few years later, you get, what is it, like Jet Force Gemini from Rare, which basically is what I think an on-foot Star Fox should begin to play as. Like modern games, like, yes, you could absolutely do it and nail it. Man, that would have been super interesting.
Can you imagine if it crashed the R-Wing down onto Venom and then it crawls out of there and he's like limping like Shepard at the end of Mass Effect 3 towards Andross's base.
And then he's like, nah, screw this, and literally pulls out the bazooka from multiplayer mode, starts shooting Andross with it.
That's how it would have to be. Oh man. Hey, you know what character we forgot to talk about? Teddy, the tutorial guy.
Oh yeah.
What's up with that dude?
He's just there. He's trying to be helpful.
Maybe he's like your mechanic on Corneria. Like he's not part of the team, but he's I don't know, maybe he's just a virtual assistant. That's why he doesn't have a voice.
Yeah.
Like
I believe his name is Yaru Depon, and he's supposed to be a Tanuki.
Oh well, there you go. He's crossover. He's related to Dodon Pa from the Sonic racing games.
Checks out.
We also we talked about him a little bit, but we didn't talk too much about Andross when we were talking about characters and voice lines and stuff.
He's a mysterious guy, ain't he? Like, he's built as this super scientist who I don't know, just fell to the temptation of power, and instead of helping the galaxy alongside other peaceful planets, he's like, no, I'm just going to take everything over and, I don't know, put robot chips in everybody's brain, I guess.
And turn into a giant face with hands if it's the 64 version.
However that happened, like we said, probably just he ran out of he ran out of experiment subjects and just dumped it on his own head.
Yeah, we were talking about this before we got started when we realized we needed to start the episode, but basically, yeah, we don't know how exactly it happened. We have to assume it's a science thing because he is a scientist, but he's a big head now and hands, and it depends on what you do. You might find he's a bit more than that.
Or a bit less, depending on your perspective.
Yeah. Even after all that, he's still got jokes because he's like, explosion. And then
only I have the brains to rule on that.
I am a gigantic brain.
Yeah. No, I'm leaving
no reason.
Lilac Galaxy for no reason.
Man, it depends on which route you're going on, because obviously if you're doing the easy route, you're not actually fighting Andross. It's a robot the whole time, and it looks kind of horrifying when you destroy it.
The sound is terrible.
You still get paid though, so
it's an interesting nod towards like the SNES version. The face would break away and there'd be this Andross cube that you destroy, which I guess is what he's piloting, or it's his soul, his essence. I don't know, but now it's a brain.
His Allspark.
Oh man.
I know, his big disgusting brain, and you have to take out the that is a scary robot. But yeah, you have to take out the horrible little eyes connected by, I guess, electric neurons, and then shoot his medulla oblongata to score points.
And don't get caught in his ganglia because he just gets you and goes.
I know.
So
it's so funny.
Something I want to talk about just for a second, because we're going to talk about Star Fox 64 3D later, a little bit more in depth. But I just want to say, for me, the biggest disappointment from 64 to 3D is the voice change, because I feel like the voice is so on point for 64. And like, I think the biggest disappointment I felt when I played 3D, which I love that game. Please do not get me wrong, people listening.
Yeah, it's a great remake because it plays like 99% like the original, but
the biggest disappointment by far is like we lose that amazing laugh that he has in 64, and like when you come up to him at the boss fight, he just goes ha ha ha, and that's it.
Yeah.
I don't know if it is the voice is. I'm gonna have to compare to the Japanese version because I'm wondering if that might be a Daisuke Gori laugh. It might be, because I've heard him in several things. It might be that deep guttural voice that they just couldn't carry it.
Well, again, going back to what we were saying before, Rick May, just incredible performance.
Yes.
Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah.
Oh, is he playing Andross?
That's my understanding.
Oh,
yeah,
man.
and I mean, obviously, I do really, like we said, I commend Nintendo for getting all those guys back. Like, it's Mike West plays Fox.
Yes.
He is Smash Brothers Ultimate. Like, he came back for 4. They realized, hey, maybe we didn't direct you good. You want to do it over again for Ultimate? And yes, sounds much better in Ultimate. That is the Star Fox. I think by this point he's played him more than he hasn't.
Yeah.
Even though they have changed voice casts a lot. But yeah, that's just unfortunately, like, yeah, you can't get everybody back. So I don't know if I would have rather had an all new cast. Probably not. But I mean, it's one of those to where it was always going to be different.
Yeah.
And like we said, it wasn't really on Nintendo to. They thought they didn't have those original voice lines because they probably didn't, because the Giga leak came from the what was it, the IQ, the Chinese console, those servers. So as far as Nintendo was concerned, they did lose those original lines, but now we have them, and I sure hope that like there are several mod projects going around to get those voices in a version of the game, because yeah, it's not bad, the 64 recordings, it's just too different. And you know, I know that sounds real like, oh, my nostalgia, but
if you're doing a complete copy of the original game, these comparisons are going to happen no matter what.
Yeah.
It's just the way it is.
I think there's only 1 or 2 line changes in 3D, and one of them changes Einstein to genius, because you know, like, wait, Einstein wouldn't be in it. Like, oh, shut up, it doesn't matter. I mean, I get it, you can change it if you want to, but it's still fine.
It's still possible there's an Einstein in the Star Fox.
Lots of planets have a
he's
north.
a dog or something. He's a dog professor who made light speed travel possible in this one.
There you go. Yeah. Last thing I'll say about the voices from Star Fox 64 to 64 3D is that I'm looking at like the date and time of which both were released. 64 was released in 1997. 3D was released in 2011. That is nearly 15 years apart, and I'm not going to expect like the voice actors who came back to be able to hit everything perfectly like they did before.
No,
that's an unreasonable expectation. But as a fan who loves the voice acting, like, I can't help but have a couple little gripes here and there. I'm just like, it's just not the same.
What it comes down to is, and I've not played Star Fox 3D, I've only like watched it, so I can just appreciate it from a presentation level. You think I would have, but what it comes down to is sometimes the source gets lost because it was that moment in time where you got that perfect take.
Yeah.
And it can be really hard, even for like a seasoned actor, to just recreate that. Like, that one take was that one perfect one, and you can't do it again. Not just because of the passage of time, because that's it. As someone who did the Cat Loves Food song for Dragon Ball Z Abridged, I have never, ever been able to hit that one singing take again. I can't. I just had a brilliant, like, genius moment of time where my voice broke enough where I was able to do the yeah, and I can't do that anymore. That was that one time, that one take, and I don't know, maybe it really was a case where they couldn't get the actor to go Uncle Andross the exact same way anymore.
Well, I believe it is a different actor in 3D. Like, I think Mike West took over.
Okay, well, that makes it even more clear what happened.
Yeah, speaking of which, I mean, in the same vein, although I don't think many people even remember that game, like, kind of ran into the same problem with Star Fox Zero, which was, God, I'm sorry, I remember seeing trailers for that game and buying it because of course, and then getting it home and getting through the first level and be like, what the f***? This is 64 again!
Yeah, Nintendo has that problem.
Which was also weird because they had that animated short that released alongside that has a completely different cast. And then you jump into Zero and it's everyone who's still around from the 64 cast.
But they're doing 64 again, so it's like, okay, why?
One thing I do like about the 3DS version is the fact that they do rebalance the difficulty and still have expert mode, but then they also have the original 64 difficulty and like things as its own separate difficulty setting. So it's cool that they give you that option.
I'm not sure if I've ever played the 3DS difficulty. I think I've always done the 64 just because that's what I'm used to.
And although I will say, I don't think battle mode is as good just because it is, locked to R-Wing only, so you can't do the Landmaster on foot stuff.
Oh, boo.
But you do get to, like, if you're playing locally, you do get a little flash of the other person's camera when you shoot down their ship to see their
cool.
live slug reaction to getting shot.
Sorry, man. I'm getting lost on the behind the voice actors page for all these characters and seeing how, like, it was Grant Goodeve was the introduction of Southern's Wolf and Star Fox Assault, but then Jay Ward took over, and then Mike West took over, and then Jay Ward came back, and oh man, it's so interesting.
Yeah, it's messy.
It's one of those to where, like, obviously I have like my preferred performances, but it is one of those where it's like, it is like it's an ensemble cast, like it's also an ensemble like voice cast as well. Like, and like I said, it's hard to gloss over the fact that yes, some of these actors have passed away, but I don't know, it's just crazy, man. It happens in Japanese too.
Yeah.
Like, it's not as many changes, but pretty close. So,
and one thing I also found out while I was doing the research is that was not going to be the original Japanese cast. Originally, the devs were just going to do all the voices themselves.
Oh no. I'm sorry.
And it apparently tested so badly that they just completely scrapped the whole concept and got original, like, proper voice actors.
Jeez.
Although I think that original dub did get out in the Giga League.
By the way, we kind of got off topic there, but it is worth talking about that. Venom, like, we're talking about how bad the first stage of Venom was on easy mode, but when you properly get to Venom, it is really cool.
Oh,
because
yeah,
you're fighting Starwolf again. They're all cyborged up, and it's cool and great. And then, but like, no matter what version it is, Fox like goes off on his own near the end, and everyone's like, "Wait, Fox, no!" And he dives right in there, and it's just like the SNES game in that respect. But the whole thing of like going down this tunnel that goes down, down, down deeper, and like avoiding like all these like these obstacles as you make your way, as Andross is like taunting you the whole time, basically telling you you're going to die like your dad did, and then finally come across him and he's a giant head, and then destroying him, and then he's a giant brain, and then he's like, "If I go down, I'm taking you with me." And he blows up, and Fox is dead, except for not, because then his dad shows up, and it's
Don't
so
ever
cool.
give up, my son.
Father?
God, it's and he said, and like, as he's leading you the way out of the exploding like lab or whatever this thing is, the shelter that Andross is hiding in, his little bunker, before he pulled out a gun and put it towards his own. Anyway, basically. And he's like encouraging you, and then he says, "Never give up. Trust your instincts." That's what Pepe's always saying.
Yeah,
So that's
yeah.
where he got it from.
Oh, it's so good.
And then that last bit before they fly out, just like,
You've become so strong, Fox.
Oh, I love that. I love timing, because I think the best strategy for that exit is to just hold the boost the whole time so you stay caught up with James. I love it when it times it just right with bursting out of the exit, just like in the cutscene.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, it's so cinematic. But yeah, how the music drops away, you can only hear the fire behind you, and then just that real... I even love James is mixed louder, like it's a voice appearing in your head.
Yeah.
It's so I'm so proud of you, my son. Oh man, it's so good.
And then Fox is out there in space, and he's like looking around, and like, "What's wrong, Fox?"
Nothing. Nothing's wrong.
It's so good.
Oh.
It's so good.
just completing the space opera.
I know. We already talked about, Pepe and Slippier. So I love Falco's. Again, the facade is cracked. It's like, that's our leader. Like,
Yeah.
Good going, buddy.
I think it's also just fun to note that, like, depending on whether you do easy or hard, like if you do the hard route and you get to fight the brain and get that ending, like you just get the end, congratulations kind of thing. But if you beat the game on easy and do the scary Andross robot and then get that ending, after the Great Fox flies away into the sunset, you get the creepy laugh and like the ghostly image of Andross like, "I'm not done yet."
Oh yeah, it's literally the end? Question mark?
You didn't get all the Chaos Emeralds.
Yeah, I just gotta say before I get comments about it, I don't know where I got the name Teddy for the little tutorial guy.
Probably
that is
what you called him
nowhere
as a
in the
kid.
game. I guess he does kind of look like a teddy bear. Again, he's a tanuki, but yeah, Yaro Depon is his only official name, so whatever. Apparently, according to the Japanese Star Fox 64 official website, he's the president of Space Dynamics, but I don't know about that.
Sure, why not?
He's just a dude. He's a guy. He's a magical little raccoon man with, I'm assuming, enormous testicles like they all
As is the way.
It's a good game, though, isn't it?
It's a real good game.
It's pretty dang good.
Absolutely one of... I mean, I feel perfectly fine saying one of the greatest of all time.
Same here.
Or at least in our lifetimes, if you want to be.
Certainly, like, one of my favorites of all time. They've never managed to capture that magic quite
much as they've tried.
God knows they have.
Oh my God, have they tried? Oh, boy. We were talking about this before. You know what? Star Fox Adventures, perfectly fun game. Great Zelda-like. One of those. Does it need to be a Star Fox game? No, but did it have to be? Probably. Like, a whole series of episodes could be done on that game's history. But then you had stuff like Command and Assault, and even, you know, of those two, Assault is trying to be more 64 than not, but yeah, they've just never nailed it. Like, I remember the aforementioned Zero hearing that, like, oh, it's a new Star Fox, it's arcade shooting, Platinum's helping out, and then it comes out and it's like, well, this is playable.
It's a bit too gimmicky.
Yeah,
as I
Zero
recall.
could have been so much better if it wasn't like forcing the motion controls.
Yeah.
Yes. And I know people have like, oh, there's really a way to master it. And I'm like, yeah, but nothing has ever topped the arcade fun of 64 and just being able to shoot down 300 enemies and feel like you're friggin' furry Luke Skywalker. And I think that's a shame. I don't know where the Star Fox series go from here. I think it's officially joined like F-Zero and I mean, Metroid is having a resurgence, but it was also one of those where it was like, I just don't think they know what to do with this franchise anymore.
Nonsense. They technically put out a new F-Zero game.
On the most very technical sense, yes. But yeah, I don't know. I feel like Star Fox 64 is so good. It's almost like, yeah, that's the one you need. And you know, I feel like maybe the fandom has filled in the gaps with supplemental material and art, and we can all just make up our own stories for these characters we like so much.
Yeah.
We're going to talk about it, aren't we? Because we brought it up already. The one that we're always going back to is A Fox in Space, because that's...
Yep.
God, it's so good, isn't it?
I still need to watch that, actually.
Yo, Jake, you got
I
it.
think you would like it. I mean, it'll only take you like less than an hour.
Yeah,
because there's
just
only two
episodes.
official episodes out,
and they're not really that connected. It's like this is a show in progress. Is basically how they present it. Like you've just joined an episode.
Yeah. One of those that I thought came out. Originally was supposed to be called
Star Fox the Animated Series, right? That's what they wanted.
And I can't remember the exact, but like almost had the entire thing canned by Nintendo and managed
They
to.
went on to Patreon, I think, and at that point Nintendo were like, hang on, you can't call
Wait
it
a
that.
second. Yeah. But thankfully, yeah, changed the name. I imagine made some other tweaks and just put out this... I mean, how do you even describe it except this grungy, intentionally lo-fi, like, reimagining of the history of Star Fox 64 that goes...
With plenty of SNES in there, too. Like some of the vibes, some of the lonely, quiet vibes, and some of the music and the art direction definitely brings to mind the original Star Fox, too. It's like an amalgamation of the two of them.
Yeah.
But it's also its own thing. It's weird how they sort of like, it's not a big space opera. It's this sort of like weirdly down and dirty kind of like these guys are like undercover cops almost, like going around doing their missions.
It
and
does
stuff.
have that like that noir feel to it.
Yeah.
I guess you would call it literally a neo noir, since it is like in this very like I almost said, like this grungy cyberpunk future, like that is unlike the games but fits pretty perfectly. And yeah, it takes inspiration from like the entire franchise. Like there's characters from Star Fox 2, there's characters from I think the comic as well, those Nintendo Power comics.
Yep. Farah, I think, is from the comic, right?
Yeah, and man, I'm just not even gonna make bones about it. Like the dude has a very attractive, sexy voice.
Playing multiple characters, great in all of them. Great as Fox, like giving that sort of nasal delivery that we expect from Fox. Great as Peppy, giving that sort of Rick May inspired performance.
Mm-hmm.
But we're all here for our boy Wolf O'Donnell, who is
my god.
Pure sex distilled into a voice.
the messiest bitch. I think one of the first clips was the can I see your legs? And the lip bite, and absolutely, I just an amazing project. And I think the creator has brought on like there's some really funny guest voices in that second episode, working with other animators. And I mean, it's like, it is TV quality in like just in everything. And absolutely, you should go watch it, Jake. I think you would really like it.
Doesn't it have Germa in it? Like Germa plays the guy in the advert. I think the Nova
I
Bomb
think
advert.
so. Yeah, one of
the sentient Krang sounding scum that's effectively.
Yeah.
I can't believe I lost to this scum. It's just there are lots of bits like that throughout it. It's just.
Speaking of fan projects, we need to talk about Starship.
Yes.
Oh yeah.
Like from the people that brought you Ship of Harkinian, the amazing PC port of Ocarina of Time. I will say this: we had been planning to do this episode for a long time, and then literally like just a couple of months before we were meant to record, they're like, "Oh hey, we're working on a PC port of Star Fox 64. Oh hey, it's out."
And I mean, if I can get it running on my virtual Windows machine, I think anybody can get it running. And it, even right now at these very early stages, looks amazing.
There is something about Aquas running at 60 frames per second that is deeply unnatural, but incredibly satisfying.
Yeah, we're very early. There aren't a ton of mods yet. I'm sure people are working their fingers to the bone right now. Like if you want to, I'm sure those, if it is possible, those uncompressed voice line sound effects and music will be in it as soon as
I have been in their Discord server, and there is like, we are still deep in the discovery period of people figuring out, okay, what can we do and how do we do it? But you know, there are signs of life. People are doing, texture replacements and everything else you would want. And somebody already turned the R-Wing into a banana, so you know that they're serious.
Yeah, a banana. I think the two mods are turn the R-Wing into a banana and the X-Wing from Rogue Squadron. So
sweet.
People are working on it. But even without all that, still a great experience. It has a lot of built-in quality of life improvements through the menu. You can turn on cheats if you want. It's yes, very good. Especially if you haven't played it in a long time, or if you've never played it. Oh my God. Like, yes, this is a perfectly acceptable way to play this game, in my opinion.
My understanding is that multiplayer is not working yet, but it is coming. So,
oh, I'm sure that, man, can you imagine that? I'm sure it's one of those things. It's like, hey, you can play it right now. That's great. Keep an eye on it.
Yeah,
because I'm sure good big things are coming. Like, look at the Mario 64 PC port from when it first came out till now, where people have got entire new games built upon it, and you can play as any character you can imagine.
Yeah.
From Sonic to Wa-Peach to
Osaka from Azumangadayo.
Look at my long jump.
I'm glad that the fans are sort of keeping things going with Star Fox, because goodness knows Nintendo don't really know or care to do that, so whatever.
I mean, I would before we start to close out, I would like to literally shout out some of my favorite Star Fox fan artists that I am still following to this day. Just gonna say, folks, we're all big boys and girls and they thems on this podcast. Some of these aren't exactly not our safe for work, so tread there be dragons, but
the baddest of dragons.
There is an artist on Blue Sky who goes by Ulala-Co. That's ULALA-Co on Blue Sky, who's an amazing Japanese artist that focuses mostly on Fox and Wolf. That is just like not only all hand drawn and colored like traditional media, just the most beautiful, colorful art ever. I also love, they haven't started porting a bunch of their art on Blue Sky yet, but Zarvolver, which is TZAR Volver, is also a great, just a general like anthro-furry artist, but has some fantastic Star Fox stuff in their log that, I just love. They incorporate a lot of my favorite Star Fox fan art is the kind that just puts everybody on the Great Fox for no reason. Like all the characters from Star Fox 2, Wolf is there. Why is he with Star Fox now? Make up your own. Make up your own reason. And then another one I really like who has several entire zines and also does some great Sonic art is Baby Boy Zone, who is on, I think they're only on Tumblr now. But some fantastic stuff. Like definitely go look at their zines. And I love how Baby Boy Zone just has a great style, and I mean loves putting these characters in just like the most amazing like outfits I've ever seen, like just very cool fashion, and I just love their wild interpretations, and it makes me happy every time they pop up on my very lonely Tumblr dashboard. But just wanted to shout out those artists because like yes, the fandom is basically what has kept Star Fox alive in my brain, and I just love coming up with my own little headcanons for what these characters are doing now around these days.
And that's kind of the thing. The fans still keeping us alive. Some of the fans of all of Star Fox, and I do mean all of it, not just 64, because Lord knows there are they're like separate fandoms, I feel, that spilled out of Adventures, and mostly people who are very attracted to Crystal. And to be fair, the voice actress of Crystal is still embracing that and making a lot of money off of that, so good for her.
Good for her. Yeah, there's not time to go over. I do love Crystal as well, like hard not to talk about the awakenings that happened with Adventure, but she has gone on to just be like a really solid character in her own right, and I wish she had more official stuff because I mean, you know, the games are kind of a sausage factory. It makes me sad that Star Fox 2 got canceled for so long. It's out there now, but like the characters they added to that would have been great in the team dynamic. But hey, like I said, that's what the fan works are for.
Now it's official. Maybe Miyu and Faye will come back someday.
Oh,
I sure hope so. They're very
nice.
Cool.
I think one thing we need to do before we close this out is, what's everybody's favorite quote from Star Fox 64?
Oh, man.
Because I polled people on Blue Sky. Well, not poll. I just asked people on Blue Sky what their favorites are, and I got a lot. But what about you guys?
I think it might be when the train conductor crashes. Oh no! Hit the brakes!
Yeah.
I can't stop it!
Oh, that's so good.
We've all been there.
And his whole thing is just so good, taunting you, trying to get into the traps the train has, like, come a little closer. Here come the little hyenas now. He's such a doof. He's just driving the train. Like, shut up, man.
Some of the most memorable ones are the bosses, because for me, one of my favorites, and it's one that someone's pointed out on my mentions, is the first guy that you fight if you get the normal route on Corneria, is that one guy who is just like, my emperor, I failed you.
It's funny you say that, because one of my favorites is the other route with, who are you guys?
Yeah.
We're Star Fox.
You'll never defeat Andross!
And like you said, the aforementioned, the very effete haughty, I admit defeat, and then he drops the whole thing at the end.
I can't believe I lost to this scum!
Like, that's a great one.
Just look at the bosses. They're some of the standout performances, and they're just in one battle.
Yep. It's a, like we said all the way to the beginning, it is a game that demands those kind of performances. And I mean, it stood the test of time. I mean, we're not talking about like, oh, it's so bad, it's good. It's like, no, man, like I said, gun to my head, I could probably recite every line for this game.
Cocky little freaks!
Yes.
Oh, that's another one too.
Don't party just yet.
Yeah. Yeah, the guy literally in a furry Zaku. I love it. It's just a Zaku with ears.
Oh, man. I think the voice that the line that keeps coming back to my mind, besides all the great boss lines, I think for me it's got to be James McCloud just going, "Don't ever give up, my son." Just it cuts through like a knife.
It does hit so good, just because of it's so simple, but it is because it's like, oh, like you said, it's storytelling. It's like, that's what Peppy said. Oh, yeah. Man. Yeah, this is James. And I know it is very on its own, very silly that Fox's, voice cracks like, father? But again, to me, that just goes to his character of like, oh, the hero's, he's not performing for anyone in this. He literally is like, oh my God, is that my dad that I thought was dead? It's good stuff, man.
I think we've covered a lot of them, but if you've listening audience, if you've got one favorite line from the whole game, let us know in the comments below, because legitimately I want to know what everyone's favorite is, because everyone's got one or two or three or whatever.
Or 15.
But one more thing, listening audience, if you've sat through all of this and you've never played Star Fox, well, aren't you Sonic fans? Don't you love furry melodrama? come and play Star Fox. Pick up Star Fox 64. It's on the Nintendo Switch Online. Give it a go.
Yeah.
You might not vibrate
Star
as much
Fox
as it did when we played it.
SNES.
It's true. Like, there's a good amount of Star Fox to play. You could get into it. You could have a whole furry awakening of your own if you don't have one already. Certainly a new one. You get to imagine.
If you haven't by now, like, come on, join the club. Got to give it a try at least. Yeah, just what a great game. A franchise that is forever near and dear to my heart in a very different way. Like, I'm ride or die for Sonic forever, but like Star Fox feels like, your older brother that you look up to, that you imagine is just out in the world having the coolest adventures ever.
I can see that, yeah.
Well, that brings us to the end of a very satisfying episode. Thank you all so much for listening in. You can follow me on various social media sites as Cyberlink420.
You can find me on Blue Sky as JeremyBaker.actor and around the internet as GameBuddy, sometimes with a 123 at the end.
You can find me all across the internet except for those bad places at Fallero. That's FAULERRO.
Love that jingle.
By those bad places, he means Venom.
Yeah.
Oh, geez, what is more toxic nowadays?
The toxic atmosphere is real.
And you can find me around the socials as Rock the Jake, and you can find me on twitch.tv as Mr. Rock the Jake.
Special thanks, as always, go out to Amy Waters for the use of our theme song. You can find more of her work on YouTube and Bandcamp. And, of course, remember to subscribe, review, share, do all that good stuff so we can keep making episodes that probably are about something. You can never be sure when this time of year rolls around. As for our next episode, we're going to be doing a deep dive on Farewell Beloved Falco, the much loved, I guess, manga interquel that bridges the events of Star Fox 64 and Star Fox Assault. It's been a good long while since last time I read it, but it's
Oh man, yeah.
it's something. I remember that much.
I have to actually read it.
Just like when he leaves and comes back in Adventure, he had to take a journey to find his true self. Good for you, Falco.
He went to the store to get some space milk.
Exactly.
And some space cigarettes.
He would use space cigarettes.
Absolutely.
Astro vape.
I know. Although I do like to picture, especially the Fox in space, I do like to picture like Alien. The Star Fox universe is a post-space travel light speed universe where they still smoke actual cigarettes in space. I love it when that happens.
Yeah. But until then, I'm Cyberlink.
I'm Game Buddy.
I'm Valero.
I'm Rock the Jake, and did you guys know that every copy of Star Fox 64 is actually personalized?
I don't necessarily believe that.
Well, I've got mine right here, and I wanted to kind of look it over with y'all, and as I'm holding it, something feels kind of weird.
Jake, what are you doing?
I don't know.
Is that a rumble pack?
It's shaking, and it's glowing in colors, and something's weird happening, guys. Rib, 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 rib.
Yep.
Good luck.